Alright guys, welcome back to lesson 3. Today we're just gonna be looking over, we're starting off with crime and deviance, starting off in module 2 for this lesson. This video will be short because we're not going to be going over the perspectives of crime today. That will make the video very long, so we're just gonna go over the definitions of crime and deviance, some of the key concepts and terms. We're going over social order and control, and we're going to talk about the agents of social control as well, their importance, how they work with each other, and everything. So, we'll get into the lesson now with crime and deviance. So a lot of students, they tend not to be able to really use the term of crime and deviance properly within essays. So they mix up what is a crime and what is a deviance. And so what we really need to understand is that a crime is a deviance, but a deviance is not a crime, right? So a crime is a wrong against the state. It is an offense or wrongful act done by an individual that undermines the laws of a country or break the laws. And for crime, it is punishable by law. So, in other words, anything that breaks the law is a crime. Once it is a law, it is in the constitution, it is written, and you break it, it and it's a crime, and of course it is punishable by the state. So it's not people who punish you, it's the law, it's the state, the court system. You're getting punishment by that. So imprisonment and other form of punishments as well, that is a crime. Now for deviance, so deviance is a norm breaking behavior. Some people in society would find such behaviors offensive, and which excites or would excite if it were discovered. So disapproval, punishment, um, condemnation, or hostility. So deviance, it is the violation of social rules, norms, and conventions. Looking into the type of deviance now, you have formal deviance. And so with formal deviance is a crime. Anything that is a crime is a formal deviance. And formal deviance arises when an individual commits an act that violates the established laws of society. Formal deviance, they would include murder, robbery, assault, rape, and so forth. And a formal deviant is therefore a criminal. So anyone a formal deviant would be a criminal. Simple as that. And it would result in fines and other formal punishments. Any capital punishments, incarceration as well, going to prison. Now, informal deviance now is that which arises when an individual or a group of individuals as well may become slightly non-conformist to the general trends of society. By this, their actions may raise an eyebrow but are not illegal at all. So, for example, let's see, you could look at informal deviance such as like picking the nose, right? We don't want to see anybody pick their nose. We consider that nasty. Sneezing in public, you know that everybody, it's fine to sneeze one time, but when you sneeze a second time, you know that's gonna raise an eyebrow. If you remember during COVID, that was the worst. Sneezing during COVID was like a formal deviance. That was like a crime back then, you know. In Jamaica, what else? Used in Jamaica, um, the sagging of the pants. A lot of people don't like to see it. It's considered to have bad manners as well. As well, bleaching the skin as well. A lot of informal deviance, right? And so what it would result in, informal deviance would result in like not capital punishment, but like social sanctions and stigmas. So people might isolate themselves from you. They might call you names. Maybe your parent might curse at you or so on. It's it that would be the form of punishment or sanctions you would get. Maybe your mother decide to take away the phone from you. So you realize that for informal deviance, it's not a wrong against the state. It's a simply it would be wrong that people don't agree with, in simple terms. And so punishment for informal deviance does not involve the state at all. Now, looking at the characteristics of deviance. So, for deviance, it is a condition, belief, or behavior. Deviance can be more than just behavior as well. It can be frame of mind. It can be a frame of mind as well, like looking at obesity, maybe in a like fat people overall, um, HIV, AIDS, and cancer can be considered deviant conditions. And so you realize that it's not just actions alone. It can really just be based on, beliefs or the condition of a person as well. Um, and you'll understand that deviance it varies from society to society. So what is deviant in one society may not be deviant in another society as well. So in some Caribbean societies, phobia is viewed as deviant and associated with negative connotations. And so legal systems in certain countries have even criminalized the practice of phobia. For Jamaica, the Obia Act of 1898 made it illegal to practice Obia, and that was punishable by imprisonment. And so I understand where even in some Caribbean countries, such as Haiti, where they would practice Obia, it's fine over there, but in Jamaica, you're getting imprisoned over here. So you see where it varies from society to society. So deviant deviance is not fixed. It's not a fixed condition, fixed standards or anything. As long as set or a group of people don't agree with it, it's considered deviant. Also, as well, additionally, dancehall and Rastafarianism was not accepted in the past, but now it's in our faces and it has become a norm. It wasn't accepted back then because it was considered deviant. Rastafarian movement was all about being against Christianity and all there were many political problems. There were riots as well. The police had a problem with them to the point where they were even pretty much executing them or just cutting off their locks as well. We know that dancehall was back then was really seen as a deviant because it involved a lot of guns, violence, and all the bad things. And so you understand that deviance it can be formal or informal. It can change over time because people's perspective change over time as well. This means that deviance is a this would mean that deviance would be like a social concept, and is dictated by social actions, behaviors, and beliefs as well. Now look at the social construction of deviance. It can be argued that deviance is more than behavior because it involves the moral judgment that is made by one person against another. And so you understand that with the social construction of deviance, actions deemed deviant vary across societies. What is considered deviant in one society may be normalized in another. And we could do, for example, if we want to compare the United States with the Caribbean culture, we know that over there, homosexuality, the LGBTQ community, they are generally accepted and they have laws protecting them and new laws established for that community as well. Within the Caribbean, it is not normalized. While it may exist, we simply don't normalize it. We ultimately see it as a deviant due to the fact that it's not part of our culture. And many goes and say that the reason why, looking at like many date it back to slavery, the black culture, we don't tend to like homosexuality as well, and so on. So yeah, and so that is where you understand that it is necessary to consider the social construction of deviance. Just how exactly does deviance come into our society? What role does it play? What does it do? How may it affect someone as well? And so it is not it's not possible to find something that is condemned by all societies, right? So every society is completely different. You know, societies tend to develop differently. They tend to also they can also develop different interpretations of deviant or non-deviant behaviors. Even within one society, what is deviant today may not be deviant tomorrow. And you could consider social changes that have occurred in the Caribbean, such as the voting of the blacks. You know that, during slavery, colonization, uh, where did blacks stand within the courts? They simply you were going to jail if you were black. Even if you didn't do the crime, you were going to jail. The jury was white, the judge was white. There wasn't a black person in the court. Well, I believe they had the colored section of the court where the colored would sit and the other would sit as well. But they weren't able to do anything. They weren't able to fend for themselves. No, blacks are voting all across the world. Whether they're immigrant or they are from the country itself, they can vote, they can participate now. The acceptance of dancehall, soca music, gambling, the Rastafarianism, which at one point were considered deviant. Yeah, and so you see that um deviance is not fixed, it's interchangeable within cultures and society as well. So you have various factors which would influence the relativity of crime and deviance, and these would include the culture, the social situation, the historical period, um, the interests of those creating the laws as well, because maybe people would look down on like let's say Rastafarianism, right? Using Rastafarianism, the country would most likely see it as a deviant, being that it's kind of a rebellious movement, and so perhaps they don't want the children of the country to grow up with that mindset. So it is seen as a deviant, while it may not necessarily be the deviant itself may not necessarily be bad, because you know that Rastafarian movement was positive. It was all about promoting the black culture, negritude, and Pan Africanism movements, all type of things. So it was good, but at the same time, the country would see it as a deviant due to the behaviors, the words that are being spread, and so on. Yeah, so even as it relates to the historical period as well, I guess you could look at the crime or the deviant acts. So the 1800s versus the 1900s, you know that those were different time period as well. So a lot of things back then compared to now, where there are more liberty and more equality, you can understand why the deviants would change. There are far more acts, human rights acts out there, so things aren't going to be considered deviant. Equality is being pushed as well, being pushed a lot. And one could suggest that all societies would see murder, rape as deviant, but it's debatable. It's debatable because, once again, as we say, not all society considers the like they share condemn the same form of deviance as well. But I don't know. Maybe, maybe it is. Murder, rape. Maybe it is considered deviance within all societies. But who knows? You have a lot of cannibalistic societies. So if we're looking at cannibalistic societies, perhaps murder wouldn't they'd probably accept murder right there. But like I said, it's debatable. Now we're going to move to social order and social control, our second topic, right? And so we put crime and deviance are often associated with anarchy, a state in which a society's previously common norms and values disintegrate or disappear. Anarchy can lead to breakdown in social order, contributing to higher rates of crime and deviant behavior. And so we understand that social order and social control exist in order to deviate some of these actions and negative impacts on the society.